I think college football fans have forgotten how to evaluate wide receivers. Seriously, we've gotten to the point where people open ESPN, look at a stat sheet, look at the rankings, and decide the conversation is over.
Oh, he had more catches. He had more yards. He had more touchdowns. Joe Cladwell has him ranked higher. ESPN has him ranked higher. So obviously he's a better wide receiver.
Are you serious?
Is that all we're doing now? Because if that's how football worked, NFL teams wouldn't spend millions of dollars scouting players every year. They just print out the NCAA receiving leaders, draft them in order, and call it a day. But that's obviously not how football works, because football has always been about context. It's always been about traits. It's always been about what translates. And that's exactly why I think one of the biggest receiver debates in college football is being talked about completely wrong. Because I believe Andrew Marsh is a better wide receiver than Malachi Toney. The first thing people are going to say is,
"You're only saying that because you're a Michigan fan."
Fair. I understand why someone would think that. But if you watch this channel or follow me on X, you know that I don't care what logo is on somebody's helmet. I've said Jeremiah Smith is the best wide receiver in college football. I didn't suddenly stop believing that because he wears scarlet and gray. I praise Ohio State players. I praise Alabama players. I've talked highly about players all over the country. I've said Julian Sain is one of the best quarterbacks in college football. So if I generally believe Malachi Toney was a better receiver, I'd tell you, because I'd rather be right than biased. And honestly, being biased is boring. You don't learn anything if every opinion starts and ends with your favorite team. So no, this isn't a Michigan homer take, it is a football take. Now, before I explain why I prefer Marsh, let's talk about Malachi Toney, because this isn't a hate video. I think Malachi Toney is outstanding. His freshman season was ridiculous. He finished with 109 catches, 1,211 receiving yards, and 10 touchdowns. That's absurd. Those numbers deserve recognition. And that's why you've seen Joe Klatt rank him high among the best players in college football. That's why you've seen fans put him second behind Jeremiah Smith. I completely understand it. If we're ranking who had a better freshman season, it's Malachi Toney. If we're ranking resumes today, it's Malachi Toney. If we're ranking production,
It's Malachi Toney.
You're a fucking idiot.
I'm not arguing any of that. In fact, if your only argument is,
Toney had a better year,
I'm going to agree with you because he did. But here's why I think people accidentally stop thinking. They assume because Toney had the better season, he must automatically be the better wide receiver. And to me, those are two completely different conversations. Before we jump into the film, I want to make one thing very clear. I'm not saying statistics don't matter. They absolutely do. If you produce at the level Malachi Toney did, you've earned every bit of recognition you're getting. Nobody accidentally catches over 100 passes. Nobody accidentally puts up over 1,200 receiving yards. That takes talent. It takes consistency. It takes durability. And it takes trust from your coaching staff. So this isn't me trying to explain away Toney's season. It's me asking a different question. If both of these players entered the NFL draft tomorrow, which one would NFL scouts be more excited about? Because that's a completely different conversation than asking who had more receiving yards. NFL scouts don't grade production. They grade translatable traits. Can you beat press coverage? Can you create separation against man coverage? Can you manipulate leverage? Can you change speeds without tipping off the route? Can you stack a corner vertically? Can you track the football over your shoulder? Can you adjust to an inaccurate throw? Can you make your quarterback look better? Those are questions that determine whether a receiver succeeds on Sundays. And that's exactly how I'm evaluating Andrew Marsh and Malachi Toney. But enough talking. Let's actually watch the tape, because this is where I think conversation changes. And before we start, I want you to ignore the result of the play for 1 second. Don't focus on whether it's a touchdown. Don't focus on whether it's gain 12 or 40. Watch how the receiver wins. That's the important part. Watch his release, watch his stem, watch the defender's leverage, watch how much separation he creates. Watch his body control, watch his hands. Those are details that don't show up in the box score, but they're exactly what NFL scouts are looking at. All right, now let's get into the film. And before I start, I want to explain why I chose these two games. For Andrew Marsh, I'm using Michigan against USC. For Malachi Toney, I'm using Miami against Notre Dame. I wanted two reasonable, comparable defensive opponents, particularly in terms of defending the passing game, rather than cherry-picking each receiver's best matchup. And I'm not just asking who had better numbers. I'm asking a different question. Who do I think is a better NFL wide receiver prospect? So as we go through this, pay attention to the alignment, defensive leverage, the stem of the route, how each receiver creates separation, how they handle man versus zone, and what happens after the catch. Because Marsh and Toney are two very different receivers. And by the end of this film, I think we'll see why I believe Andrew Marsh's game translates better to being a complete NFL wide receiver. First play, Marsh is lined up as a Y. Michigan motions him to the right, he comes back across, and this is an RPO. Bryce pulls it and gets the football out to Marsh in a flat. Now, I'm not grading this as a route running win because Michigan is manufacturing the touch. What I'm grading is what Marsh does once the ball gets there. Watch the change of direction and the evasiveness. He gets the football in space, makes the defense account for him, and turns an easy completion into a first down and more. That's important to his projection. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about Marsh as a traditional receiver, but he's not some stiff outside X who needs a contested ball to make an impact. Michigan can manufacture touches for him too. The scheme creates the opportunity. Marsh creates the extra yardage. Now we start getting into the route running. Marsh is lined up at X. Look at the defensive back. He's given Marsh roughly a 10-yard cushion. More importantly, look at the leverage. He's projecting the inside. Marsh is running the comeback, so watch the stem. This is what I want you to see. Marsh has to convince the defensive back that he's still going vertical. If he starts slowing down early, the DB drives a route and it's over. Marsh continues pushing vertically and forces the corner to respect the possibility of the go route. Now he breaks. He works roughly 3 yards back towards Bryce, and look at the separation. The defender's momentum is still carrying him vertically while Marsh already knows he's coming back. That's not Marsh simply running to the spot. That's Marsh creating the spot. He's using the stem to sell vertically and attacking the leverage the defender gave him. Bryce puts it on him, and Marsh finishes the catch. That's a clean route running win. Now we're going to see the same route running principle applied differently. Marsh is back at X. USC is in zone with the nickel sitting inside, and again the corner is giving him roughly 10 yards. Look at the leverage. He's still protecting inside. Marsh is running the deep out. Watch what Marsh does before he even breaks the outside. He's attacking the leverage with the stem. He's making the defender continue protecting the inside and vertical portions of the route. Then Marsh breaks into the space the DB is surrendering. Look at this. The defender is still inside. Marsh has created the outside window. Unfortunately, Michigan's protection breaks down and Bryce doesn't get the opportunity to hit it. But don't grade the receiver based on what happened to the offensive line. Marsh won the portion of this play. And now compare that to the comeback. Different route, similar presentation earlier. That's what I like. If your comeback, deep out, post, and vertical all look completely different 5 yards into the route, NFL corners are going to figure you out. Marsh is showing the ability to use a stem to keep multiple possibilities alive. Now Marsh moves back to the Y and motions outside. I'm not going to manufacture some huge route running point from this snap. Instead, just keep track of the alignment. X, Y, motion, outside, inside. Michigan is already showing us that Marsh isn't restricted to one location in the formation. That's going to matter when we compare his usage to Toney. Now we get something completely different. Marsh is at the Y, USC is playing Tampa 2, and Michigan runs a scissors concept. Marsh pushes up the seam before curling underneath the two deep structure. Look at where he puts himself. He's over the underneath coverage and underneath the two deep defenders. That's the window. Against man coverage, we're asking whether Marsh can manipulate a defender. Against zone, we're asking whether Marsh can manipulate space. He understands where the void is, gets into it, and gives Bryce a quarterback-friendly target. Catch, 15 yards. This isn't a flashy route running, it's an intelligent route running. And if Marsh is going to move inside at the next level, this matters. Now, this might be one of my favorite reps, and Marsh doesn't even get the football. Michigan is in a bunch set. USC is playing cover 1. Marsh is at the X, and he's on one-on-one. Watch his first couple of yards. Look at his feet. He doesn't immediately give away the crosser. He attacks the DB's leverage first and uses those first couple yards to sell the route. Then he crosses his face. Look at this. Roughly 3 yards, Marsh is open. Bryce ultimately throws a touchdown to Donovan McCulley, which is obviously the correct decision. But the bot score gives Marsh absolutely nothing here. Film does. He won against man coverage. That's why targets aren't enough when we are evaluating receivers. Now he's back at the Y. Deep cross, and look at the leverage again. The defender is outside. Marsh wants inside. So he attacks the leverage and crosses his face. You're going to hear me use the word leverage constantly because that's really what we're studying. Good route running isn't just knowing where you're supposed to go. It's understanding how the defender is trying to stop you from getting there and making his positioning work against him. Now we've got roughly 10 yards of cushion again. Marsh is at the Y, defender is sitting inside and has his attention influence towards Bryce. Marsh pushes the route and curls into the available space. Right here, he already won. Don't keep running yourself into coverage. Recognize the window, sit in it, present yourself to your quarterback. Bryce finds him, and Marsh picks up 11. That's quarterback-friendly receiver play. Michigan manufactures another touch here, RPO bubble. Marsh gets the football, but look at the numbers. The defense has extra bodies flowing in his direction, so there's not much available. Marsh cuts, takes what's there, and gets a couple yards. Not a huge play, but again, we're seeing Michigan comfortable getting the ball into the hands underneath. Now Michigan goes back to scissors. Marsh is at the Y and attacks the hook curl zone. Watch where he settles. There's your window. Marsh gets open, Bryce finds him, first down. And now we're starting to build a pretty interesting resume. We've seen Marsh separate against cover one. We've seen him manipulate cushion. We've seen him attack leverage outside and inside. And now multiple times, we've seen him understand where to settle against zone. Different defensive problems, different answers. That's what I'm looking for in an NFL wide receiver. This is one of the most important Marsh reps in the entire video. He's at X, Michigan runs a weak flood, and Marsh attacks the middle with a post. Watch the defensive back. His leverage is committed outside. Now watch Marsh's first 10 yards. The defender gets committed, then Marsh plants and attacks the inside. Look at the separation, roughly 3 yards, the route is 1. Now watch what happens with the football. It's underthrown. Marsh has to change his path and work vertically back towards the ball. That allows the defender to recover. And give the DB credit. That's a great play on the football. PBU, incomplete. But this is exactly why I'm doing film instead of reading a stat sheet. The stat sheet says target, incomplete. The tape says Marsh identified outside leverage, manipulated the defender, broke inside, and created approximately 3 yards of separation. Marsh won the route. The throw changed the result. That's an NFL translatable rep. And we finish Marsh with a great example of how all these traits come together. He's at X, Michigan runs verticals, and we've got roughly 10 yards of cushion. Watch the DB. His attention starts squeezing inside. Marsh recognizes it and continues the vertical. Bryce finds him, catch. Now, we're no longer evaluating the route. We are evaluating the receiver with the football. Look at the safety. Marsh sees him and cuts back inside. There's no wasted movement. Catch, identify leverage, go. And look at the receiver, his size moving in open space. That's a part of Marsh's projection that really interests me. We've seen the comeback, deep out, crosser, post, vertical, zone awareness, man separation, and now yak. We're seeing multiple ways to win. Now let's switch over to Malachi Toney. And immediately, you're going to notice something. These guys aren't really being used the same way. Marsh bounced between X and Y throughout the USC film. Watch where Miami puts Toney. First rep, Toney's in the slot, Notre Dame is playing man, and Toney is running the vertical fade. Watch the release. This is where Toney immediately jumps off the film. His feet are quick. He uses the movement at the line to get the defender reacting and then accelerates vertically. Look at the separation. He's maintaining roughly 2 yards. That's a win. The ball is slightly overthrown and incomplete. Same standard we use for Marsh. Don't punish the receiver for the result of the throw. Toney created separation, but already noticed the stylistic difference. Marsh is more deliberate through the stem. Toney is more sudden. He wants to make you react right now and use his acceleration to take advantage. Toney is in the slot again, Notre Dame is a man, and this is a really good route. Look at the DB's leverage. He's committed to the inside. Now watch Toney attack with his feet. Don't watch Toney this time. Watch the defender. Look at his feet. Toney has him crossed up. The defender is trying to mirror all the movement and lose his base. Toney snaps into the deep curl, and he's wide open. The ball doesn't come his way. Doesn't matter. Toney won this route, and this is probably the biggest strength of his game. His short area quickness can completely screw with a defender's ability to mirror him. Slot again, man coverage again. Toney is working into the flat. Watch the feet. There's the movement. He gets the defender reacting, cuts outside, and now he's created the advantage. But this is where Toney becomes really dangerous. Ball is in his hands, 15 yards after the catch. This is why Miami wants him inside. Give him room, give him a defender who has to mirror him, let those feet create the initial advantage. Then let Toney become a runner. Now Notre Dame goes zone, Toney is still in the slot and works the out. So we're not evaluating him the same way as those man reps. Now it's about recognizing space. He gets outside, makes the catch, and again the quickness shows up after the football arrives. Toney gets Miami the first down, and you're starting to see exactly what Miami likes about him. Get the ball into his hands, in space, and let him work. Now, this might be my favorite Toney route. Slot again, Notre Dame is in cover 2. DV gives him about 5 yards. Look at the leverage, he's sitting inside. Same question we asked with Marsh. What is the defender trying to take away? And how does a receiver make the leverage wrong? Toney attacks it, get into the deep cross and create separation. This is a legitimate route running win, and I want to emphasize that. I'm eventually going to tell you I prefer Marsh as the NFL prospect. That does not mean Malachi Toney can't run routes. He absolutely can. This is a great example. And then look at the ball tracking. Finds it, finishes it, touchdown. That's NFL receiver play. And stop me if you've heard this before. Toney is in the slot. That's becoming a theme. Notre Dame is playing man with about 5 yards of cushion and Miami runs levels. Watch Toney push vertically for about 5 yards. Then watch the feet. He's attacking leverage before the break's inside. That's important. He's not getting open simply because he's fast. He's setting up the break. He works on the inside, makes the catch, and picks up the first down. Good rep. But this is where the Marsh-Toney comparison starts getting really interesting. They're not being asked to play receiver the same way. Toney is living inside. Marsh has given Michigan a lot more work at X while still showing the ability to move inside. Notre Dame goes Tampa 2, and Toney is, shocker, in the slot again. Miami goes back into the flat action. Watch Toney attack the defender's leverage, get outside, and creates the window. And there goes the yak ability again. Roughly 20 yards. That is absolutely an NFL trait. You can manufacture these touches on Sundays. Quick outs, flats, option routes, motion screens. Toney can hurt you with all of them. My question isn't whether this translates. It does. My question is how broad the rest of the projection becomes. Now, Notre Dame is in cover 4. Toney runs a curl and attacks the hook curl area. This is where I can directly compare him to something Marsh showed earlier. Toney understands where the space is. That's good zone awareness. Marsh showed it against Tampa 2. Toney's shown it against quarters. Different coverage, same receiver skill, understand where the defense isn't. I give both guys credit here. Now we finally get a little different alignment. Toney's at the Y, Miami runs levels, and Toney attacks outside before getting vertical. But watch the DB. Now we're getting physical. The defender gets handsy on Toney and stays attached. You can absolutely make the argument that he's holding him, he's handsy. But this reps brings up to an important NFL projection question for me. What happens when defenders get their hands on Toney? Because his quickness is outstanding when he's able to operate in space. NFL nickel corners are going to be bigger, faster, and more physical. Can Toney consistently get to that quickness when somebody disrupts a route before it develops? One play doesn't answer that, but it's something I'm putting it in my scout notes. So now that we've watched both, here's where I land. First, Malachi Toney is a good receiver. I don't think the film supports pretending otherwise. His feet might actually be better than Marsh's. He's more sudden, he's dangerous after the catch, he can separate against man, and he understands how to find space against zone. But Toney and Marsh are two different types of receivers. Miami predominantly uses Toney from the slot in this film, and they're putting him in situations that maximize exactly what he does best. Short area quickness, leverage manipulation, space, and yak. Marsh is being asked to solve a wider variety of problems. We watch Marsh at X, we watch him at Y, we watch him in the motion, we watch him beat cushion with the comeback, attack leverage inside with a deep out, separate against cover 1 on the crosser, attack outside leverage on the post, find voids against the zone, win vertically, create the after the catch, and that's why I think Marsh is cleaner and more complete route runner. Toney's feet are quicker. Marsh's routes are cleaner, and there's a difference. Toney can make a defensive back lose his footing with sudden movement. Marsh is showing me more examples of using his entire stem to construct the route. He's setting defenders up 5, 8, 10 yards before the actual break. That's the part of that really stands out to me when I'm projecting these two. If I'm an NFL offensive coordinator, I know exactly how I can use Malachi Toney. Put him in a slot, move him around, give him option routes, manufactured touches, let him attack nickel corners, safeties, and linebackers. Get the ball into his hands and let him be an athlete. That's a legitimate NFL player. But if you're asking me which one I want as a more complete NFL wide receiver prospect, I'm taking Andrew Marsh. Because Marsh gives me more answers. I can isolate him at the X, I can move him inside, I can ask him to win against man, I can ask him to understand zone, I can ask him to win vertically, I can ask him to manipulate leverage through the stem, and I can still manufacture touches and get yak out of him. Toney might be the more sudden player. Toney might even be the more dangerous player with the ball already in his hands. But Andrew Marsh is a more complete wide receiver prospect. And when I'm projecting their games to Sundays, that's why I'm taking Marsh.